and welcome to Author Audit, the show where you get a peek into the creative process and minds of your favorite writer. Today, our special guest is Jamal, and he is the author of, would you like to go ahead and introduce your book?
My story is called Chase of Paradise.
Right, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so before we get started, I was wondering if you could give a little bit of background as to who you are as a person and what caused you to go ahead and write this book.
Well, I am a young writer who was inspired at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And what inspired me to write the book was high school clash that I had me in love.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like the whole story was Romeo and Juliet type of thing.
Oh, wonderful. It's a really good story. So it's great you were able to go ahead and pursue writing it. So what's a fact about you that nobody would guess?
Well, I based my character October based off of me.
Oh, interesting. Can you go a little bit more into depth of what sort of things October did that kind of represent part of you?
Well, he went to the school that I mentioned in the book,
Mm-hmm.
August Martin, and he meets a girl and falls in love with her. And then he talked to a few other people that he fell in love with as well.
Mm-hmm.
And October, the name comes from my birth month that I was born in.
Oh, interesting. Well, bouncing back to the questions about your background, who was your role model as a kid and why?
My role model as a kid was Judy Blume when I was in elementary school, because I used to read her books like nonstop.
Judy Blume is a really good writer. I used to read her books all the time when I was in elementary school as well. And I swear, my sister actually had a collection of all of her books, so I can completely relate to that. So what did you want to do when you grew up when you were a little kid? Because sometimes when you're in kindergarten, your teachers would say, oh, well, you might want to be an astronaut, and then you get all these ideas and you're like, oh, well, I want to be a veterinarian, or I want to be a dancer. Well, what did you want to be?
Well, I wanted to be three things at the same time, but at different points.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to be a writer at first. Then
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be an actor,
Mm-hmm.
because I like acting on stage. So I thought about movies and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then I thought about singing.
Oh, well, it's wonderful that you were able to actually pursue one of those things. Do you have you gone into the other two things that you listed? Do you act and do you sing at all?
I'm still pursuing on trying to act and trying to sing, but writing was my main goal.
Mm. Did you have anybody that truly pushed you to want to be a writer other than
There was a lot of people that that pursued me to write.
Well, can you go a little bit more into the story of that and how you ended up getting your start as a writer?
Okay, so Judy Blume was one of the authors that kind of pushed me to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had other authors like Laurie House Anderson, who wrote the book Speak, and then Alice Sebold, who wrote The Lovely Bones, and Peter Hedges with What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and so many more, that it kind of expanded my horizons of ideas for a story.
It's totally understandable, and that's really, again, it's wonderful you were able to take this thing you had a passion for, like reading and writing, and you were able to turn it into your career. So we're going to sort of transition into your book. Can you explain the plot of your book a little bit more, and just like go over what happens in the book, and how you initially got all of these ideas for your book?
Okay, so within the first half, it's like October goes to August Martin High School, as a new kid, and he's just, and he's in curiosity about his new school and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But he meets his friend who also is like a person who has like a major crush on him, that type of person named Carly.
Mm-hmm.
And they start building off a friendship, and then once when it becomes the first day of school, first assembly and everything, October meets the school leader, who happens to be Becky. And Becky is the ruler of the school, who actually makes sure that everything is separated between the general education people and the special education people.
Mm-hmm.
It it was a feud that's been going on for years.
Mm-hmm.
But then once when October saw Becky, he didn't see any of that would have happened and everything. He was just in love with Becky.
Yeah.
Time goes on between October and Becky after, they talk during creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's trying to find out what's going on and how to get closer to Becky and everything. But Becky has one wish that she has. She
Mm-hmm.
wished to end the feud because she doesn't see it's fair that we're all separated.
Yeah. Well.
So October helps.
Mm-hmm.
And what's wedging between the way of the feud and Becky and October's relationship is Carly, because of her major crush that she has on October.
Mm-hmm.
But then October says, look, I really don't want to deal with this, and I think it's just better off if we don't see each other anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then October tries his best to win Becky back over because he loves her. Time goes on between Becky and October after Becky is pregnant with their child.
Well, how did you end up coming up with this story? Was there some like particular life events that happened that kind of inspired you to do it, or did you have a favorite show that kind of pushed you to want to write this story? Or
Oh, there's a lot that made me write the entire book how it is.
oh, well,
Like,
could a little bit more into depth of that?
hmm. Okay, so there was like Time Traveler's Wife, After by Anna Todd, which is my favorite series going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 50 Shades, which I read both versions from Christian's and Anna's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched a couple of stuff and everything, and I kind of mix some ideas and try to put it together within my story, and it actually did sound better.
That's very cool. So, when you're actually writing, what's your writing process like? Do you have a set schedule, or do you kind of write on a whim?
I write when I can.
So, is there so when you say you write when you can, is there something that kind of blocks you from having a schedule, or does creativity come to you in waves?
It once when it comes to me, I write it, but the only thing that stops me is like writer's block,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the main one.
So, how do you overcome your writer's block?
I try to write something, and then if I come back to it later, and if I don't like it, I rewrite it again until I like it.
Yeah. So, do you have any tips for new aspiring writers and how to get over the writer's block?
Well, this tip goes for anything really, including writer's block. Just write write what's ever on your mind, and if you don't like it, just toss it away and try again.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. Perseverance is a very important skill to have, especially when writing. And it's really great that you're telling the audience that that's something that is extremely important, because I don't think that most new aspiring writers kind of understand that it's okay to backtrack a little bit and get back on. Is Can you give like a particular instance where you did have to backtrack?
Hmm. I had to backtrack when. Okay, so this is actually a secret that I was going to tell, but I had to backtrack a couple of times once when it came to writing the prequel,
Oh,
which prequel is coming soon. Now, there were so many versions of the prequel that I had beforehand
mhm.
to the prequel that I have now.
Oh. What kind of changes did you have to make to get to the point that you were happy with the prequel, or with your current book that we're talking about in the interview?
Okay, so the prequel in the I tried to write it as best as I can.
Mhm. So when you were writing the current book that we're discussing, was writing energizing or exhausting you?
It was energizing because I got to put my wildest imagination on paper and now in print.
If you could change one thing about your book, whether it be adding more or getting rid of something, would you? And what would you change?
That would be a tough one because there was so much once when I wrote the book, and then it's like, oh well, I had these other lovers for my characters, so I guess if it was possible, I'd write more on October and Becky's point of view.
Yeah, so like story drafting and coming up with your characters and stuff along those lines.
The hardest part was that when I first started, I my pre-drafts was that I used like names of people that I wanted to add and so forth and so on to kind of tie into what what goes on and how it goes on in the story. But then later I just fictionalized it to where I don't have to get um you know sued or anything. I liked it when it went to the fictionalized setting, and I just went from there.
How did you select the names of your characters? Because I know you already discussed how you got October's, but how did you come up with the rest of them?
Let's see. There was okay, so Becky and my character's third lover, Rose Rosalie,
Mm-hmm.
even though that I wanted like it to be tied into my celebrity crush that I had in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of tied in her character traits from the show that she was in, Glee, to the two characters in the story. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of tied that in, and I made it like from my point of view.
We're going to transition into more questions about your background. What do you like to do when you're not writing?
Listen to music, watch movies. Um, I'm always surfing the web, always,
Mm-hmm.
and I love trying new things, especially if it comes to new foods and everything.
What three words do you feel like describe you best?
Energetic, creative, and I think I'm gonna go with silly because I am a little silly at times.
If you had to create a slogan for your life, what would it be and why?
Creative slogan. I would say don't give up and keep trying because that's more likely a slogan that could go towards who wants to get their books out to publishing.
Yeah. If you could invite three people to dinner, living, dead, fictional, or real, who would they be and why?
Hmm. Let's see. Lauren Potter, who is my celebrity crush. I would love to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
Ariana Grande, my favorite singer. And then, does it all have to be celebrities?
No, it can be living, dead, fictional, or real, and anybody that you know of or that you'd like to just sit down and have dinner with.
And the last, okay, so the last one I'm going to say is my my future wife, Tania Henry. She is the love of my life.
That's very sweet. Well, if you could read, or if you only had the opportunity to read one book for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, hmm. That would be tricky.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot here.
Okay, one book, one book. Okay, I guess it's going to have to be Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I haven't read the second one yet, even though I own it. I got to get into it.
Well, if you could be one animal, what would it be?
I would actually be a cat because I'm just relaxing all the time.
If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One food. Oh no. I would actually eat shrimp.
Ooh, shrimp is really good. I don't like. What would you like to be known for?
I would actually like to be known for a writer of a lot of things,
Hmm.
like my stories, or a screenplay if I was to make a movie.
Hmm.
Because if I was to write the screenplay for my book or books in general, I would actually love to be known as that. And maybe, if possible, maybe I can act and direct it. Almost like a Tyler Perry type of thing.
There are now 25 hours in the day. How do you spend your extra hour?
It's either I'm writing or I'm sleeping.
uh, so I know that you mentioned acting and that you love to try new foods, but do you have any other hobbies like set in stone aside from writing?
I do sing because karaoke.
Mhm.
Gotta support gotta support the Glee community, and I'm on TikTok here and there.
Our last section of questions are quick fire, so this is don't think, just answer. Deep sea or outer space?
Outer space,
Spring, summer, fall, or winter?
fall,
Salty or sweet?
sweet,
Day or night?
day,
Pancakes or waffles?
pancakes,
Chocolate or vanilla?
chocolate,
Coca-Cola or Pepsi?
Coca-Cola,
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
hamburgers,
Fruit or vegetables?
veggies,
Gold or silver?
gold,
Ketchup or mustard?
ketchup,
Sandals or sneakers?
sandals,
Milky Way or Snickers?
Snickers.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and just talk to your audience. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.